If you want to get on the air and ask Bunky a question about Wicca or how he won the lottery, 604-822-2487. That's 604-UBC-CITR. If you are driving, please be conscious of the road and be careful. But feel free to give us a call, 604-822-2487. So that guy was asking about talismans, and it sounds like, I don't know too much about spells and things like that, but I'm guessing that the pencil and things like that were something related to spells. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, Wicca really, and especially witchcraft, revolves around doing spells, meditations, incantations, using elixirs and potions to, manifest the things that you want in this reality. Mm-hmm. And, the 20-plus years that I've been studying, I've worked with all of those things. As you learn, you grow. Read books, find teachers. I've had a number of teachers over the years. I've joined a number of groups. I've read more books than any person probably should have ever read. But, and it's just a matter of gaining knowledge and trying to gain understanding of yourself, how you interact with the universe, and how it acts with you.
Fantastic. Now, one of the questions that was emailed into the show, again, if you want to email a question to the show, the email address is spiritualshow@gmail.com. And it sounds like you kind of answered this. How long did it take from the time that you decided to win the jackpot until you finally manifested the win? You mentioned that you were lighting green candles for money 20 years ago, but was the money intended to come through the lottery, or how long was it before you actually said, I'm going to win the lottery, before it happened?
Actually, I never said I was going to win the lottery. I was actually sitting in the coffee shop. It was only about 2 or 3 months before I won the lottery. And I was getting mixed signals from the universe. It kept telling me, you need to teach, you need to teach, you need to write books, you need to do this. And it's like, okay, I'm working a full-time job. I'm running my own business here. I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week now. How can I teach, write books, and do all of this and still, make sure that my family has a roof over their head, food on the table, all the things that they need? I can't do it all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I said, look, here's the deal. You let me win the lottery, and I will go ahead and do what you said you want me to do.
And how long was it?
3 months later.
Wow. So that's pretty fast. It sounds like
that was. If you really want to say that was the pivotal point, I'm not sure, because it was when I was sitting in the coffee shop, because I had just gotten a reading from one of the readers at Mystical Voyage. And she kept saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I'm like, I get out there, I'm sitting in the coffee shop, and it was like one of those frustrated kind of things. So, again, it was almost like building up energy, and I finally just said, okay, enough is enough. And I kind of yelled it while I was in the coffee shop because Lori, who's the owner and a friend of mine, walked over and said, are you all right? So she had a little concern.
Well, 3 months later, you were definitely all right.
Correct.
And so we were going to talk a little bit about your spiritual alchemy, and we had to go to a break. So can you tell me a little bit more about what that is?
Spiritual alchemy is similar to the idea of physical alchemy, but instead of turning base metals into precious metals, you're actually cleansing your soul. It's almost the same process you go through to try and create the Philosopher's Stone, but you're doing it on a spiritual level. So there are numerous meditations, there are elixirs, there's all kinds of different things that you do while you're on that path in order to try and cleanse your soul, cleanse your energy, cleanse your chi of all the negative things that you build up as you go through life. And it's a really long process. And I've been working on that process for, I would say, 15 years. I've been working a path to try and do just that.
Wonderful. So it sounds like that spiritual alchemy isn't necessarily just for Wiccans. It could be for people of all faiths and beliefs.
Oh, yes. I mean, because it's a spiritual practice, not a religious practice. Mm-hmm. It's a way of living, watching what you eat, doing certain exercises, meditating, the long list. And I've been, keeping records of everything that I've been doing, and I've just gotten it to a point where I can actually put it all together and say, okay, I can formulate a class on this, and here's what I'm going to do.
That's so fantastic, because a lot of people, I think, and of whatever faith that they might be, people make deals with God and the universe and things like that. Like, if you help me get this, that, I'll do this, and bargaining. But I can imagine that a lot of people, when they hit such a big jackpot and it opens so many more possibilities for them, that a lot of people probably deviate from what they had originally planned, because, your life just totally changes. So I think it's really amazing that you've actually kept up, rather than hanging out on the beach in Hawaii all the time, you are actually still, educating people and sharing your knowledge.
And that's kind of what, I had planned to do if I had won anyway. I didn't really want it to change my life that much. It's not to say that it hasn't changed my life, because it has. I'm sitting in a 5,000 square foot house versus, a 1,200 square foot house. So it has made an impact. But I'm still trying to be who I am, who I always was, and I have surrounded myself with friends who make sure that I stay who I was. Because the minute I start getting out of line, they look at me, hit me across the head, and say, "Stop that."
Awesome. So it sounds like you've kept your old friends, and I can hear that you're really grounded, and because I can imagine that having tens of millions of dollars and a lot of media attention, and I hear that from your assistant that you actually are on a radio show. And I'll ask you a little bit more about that. But I can imagine that could change a person a little bit.
It can, and, a lot of people do. I've always dealt with the media because even before I won, I was a spokesperson for Wicca. I did a number of interviews on news programs, radio programs. I've been doing that since I actually started 20-plus years ago. My first radio program 20 years ago was with me and my current teacher and high priestess had went on a local oldies radio station to talk about Halloween and Samhain. And it started there. And I actually do have that first interview on a tape somewhere in the house.
Cool. You're listening to CITR 101.9 FM in Vancouver on the University of British Columbia campus, or you might be listening online at CITR.ca. This is Synchronicity, talk radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie, and we are talking with Bunky Bartlett, who is a Wiccan priest who also happened to win a substantial amount in the Mega Millions lottery down in the States. If you have a question for Bunky, the number is 604-822-2487. That's 604-UBC-CITR. Now, I was going to ask you, and it's kind of slipped my mind now. I'm trying to formulate the thought. So I guess hopefully it'll come back to me. I'll move on to something else. Do you believe that you could win the lottery again if you wanted to? And do you want to?
Oh, yeah, and I know I am. I've already started envisioning that.
Nice.
Because that would be one of the best reaffirming that this was really a magical happening is if I actually can do it again. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think the world would actually look at that and say, okay, what exactly is it that he's doing?